Now you have made your students write different things. You made them write, you have made them write stories, poems, reports, projects. And now you have to analyze and value or evaluate your students' writing skill. There are different strategies for analyzing students' writing, or there are different criteria for analyzing your students' writing. You should never grade the writing pieces of your students without having a criteria in your mind. Most of the people nowadays value the writing pieces, the written pieces of their students just by looking at the content without looking at the language, without looking at some other aspects. So itself, students are not able to improve their writing skill. Some criteria are there, some strategies are there for analyzing students' writing. Let's look at these strategies. Checking the variety of vocabulary used by the students. Actually, the stock of vocabulary is something important in the case of language development. There are different types of vocabularies. Two types of vocabulary are active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. Active vocabulary includes the words which you can make use when you are going to speak something or write something. You are able to use in your own sentences. These are active vocabularies. Passive vocabulary is the stock of words which you can understand when others tell or when others write, but you can never use the words in your sentences when you speak something or when you read or when you write something. You can understand the words, but when it is necessary for you to use, the words will not be coming to your tongue or the words will not be coming to the tip of your pen. So, active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. And for writing something, actually, you should keep a better active vocabulary. And when the teacher analyzes the written piece of his student, he should look whether the student was able to make use of a variety of words. If he is making use of the same word for different sentences, teacher can just call him and tell him that there are synonyms of that word. You can also use these words and so and so. So when you check the writing pieces of your students, the written pieces of your students, just look whether they have used a variety of words. Then checking the spelling mistakes and correcting it instantaneously. You should check the spelling mistakes. And you should correct the spelling mistakes on the spot. You should just correct the faults and just write or scribble the spelling mistakes there itself. Because some people are committing mistakes in the case of spellings even after completing their degrees and PGs because their spelling mistakes had not been corrected immediately by their teachers. So when you value, you should look at the spelling mistakes, especially when you're valuing something written by school students. Then another criteria is checking the accuracy of the grammar. This is also important. Nowadays, people are valuing the papers just by looking at the PowerPoint points. This is something unfortunate. And this is seen even in the case of B.Ed paper valuation. Now, B.Ed syllabus, there is a paper called Language Across Curriculum. And this paper is meant for developing the linguistic skills of the students. But when the answer sheets are valued, most of the teachers value the papers just by looking at the points given by the teacher trainees. They look whether they have given the points, and the students who have given the points which they had seen in PowerPoint presentations without giving any explanation or without giving due explanation and without having accurate grammar are getting more marks than those students who explain each and every point in an elaborate manner. I have seen this one lots of times. One of my students of 17-19 batch got only 27 marks in language across curriculum paper. But she had got beautiful language. When I was valuing one of her assignments, I just made use of a plagiarism checker, and her assignment was 100% unique. But she got only 27 marks. Another student of the same batch got 40 marks out of 50 just by writing some PowerPoint points. So as teachers, when you value the papers, the written pieces of your students, you should look at the grammar too. You should look whether he or she was able to give accurate grammar. Otherwise, you will correct it. Most of the people are not able to write in foreign language just because they haven't got the correct grammatical patterns. Then checking the logical arrangements of points. When you write an article, there should be logical arrangements of points. Some points should become first, some other points should become later. And some people write articles by giving some points which should become later at the very beginning of the article. It should not be there. You should check uh, whether there is a systematic arrangements of points, whether there is a logical arrangements of points. Then checking the punctuations and correcting it instantaneously. You should check whether they have put the full stop at the right spot, whether they have put the commas, whether they have given colon, semicolon, quotations. And you should correct all these things instantaneously. Most of us are not able to put the correct punctuation marks even after becoming teachers just because our mistakes had not been corrected by maybe because our mistakes had not been corrected by teachers maybe. Then checking the selection of words in poetry. When you value the poems written by your students, check whether they were able to select some beautiful words, some attractive words, some charming words, some rhyming words. Poetry has got different rules and regulations. And these rules and regulations should be taught during the earliest stage of education. So you should check the selection of words in poetry. whether they are attractive, whether they are poetic words or not. Then checking the sequencing of sentences. This is also important. We should be able to make use of some sequencing words. For example, if you tell, I was ill yesterday, I did not come to school. Then you should make use of the word so. Just keep the sequencing. I was I was ill yesterday, so I could not come to the I could not come to school. So these sequencing words, then, for, so, therefore, such words. You should check whether these words are used at the right spots, whether they are able to keep the sequence of the sentences. It's also important in the case of writing. You should check all these items. You should check all these items and you should correct. You should make corrections on the spot. So these criteria should be there in your mind before you are going to evaluate the writing pieces of your students, right?